Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
The following portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news this evening, Prime Minister Perry Christie has urged the public and private sectors to think big. He was addressing a public-private sector meeting on boosting the economy today when he said there's a lot more to improving the economy than job creation. Here's Charisma Robinson.
The thinking must continue. And so I'm arguing here for the fact that we are going to need a plan.
A solid plan. Mr. Christie says if we're going to have wholesome development in this country, we have to consider a number of factors.
Try to understand that if President Barack Obama wins again, he might liberalize Cuba further, and there's a major implication in terms of competitiveness to our tourism industry of a Cuba developing even further.
Now, there is no secret that the Bahamas has been in dire straits over the past few years as a result of the economic crisis. But State Minister for Investments, Kaylis Roll, firmly believes that our response to the crisis is what got the country in this state in the first place. Today's meeting, he says, represents a new approach.
Nobody has sat down with the private sector and said, what are your views? How do we turn this thing around? At the end of the day, the private sector manages the economy. The government provides the environment, we set the framework, and the private sector is the engine.
Following today's meeting, Rose says he's expecting to have a solid framework for an economic recovery strategy, both for the interim and long term.
The country will not grow, it will not develop on a sustainable basis if we don't take a structured approach, if we don't take a long-term approach to it.
New legislation will also be a part of this new strategy, including the National Investment Act, which will govern how we manage foreign direct investment, as well as the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Act, which will be launched by the end of this year.
Now, when it comes to protecting this country's economy moving forward, the nation's chief says he's going to ensure that lawless men and women do not get in the way. Reporting for ZNS News Network, I'm Charisma Robinson.
We're back in North Abaco tonight. It's just 18 days and counting to by-election day, and candidates are making sure they saturate the electorate with their messages. We go live now to our Shashina Roll, who is spending the second night there. Good evening to you, Shashina.
Good evening, Keishla, and good evening, Bahamas. Nomination day is over, and that means the campaign trail is about to intensify. Tonight, we start off our coverage by speaking with the PLP's official candidate, Renato Curry. He's going to talk a little bit about why he believes he's the best man for the job. He's also going to address claims of victimization, and he also spoke candidly with our ZNS News team about his loss in the May 7th general election. Former Member of Parliament and Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram, in the May 7th elections, he was referred to as David going up against Goliath. While he fell just a few hundred votes short, Renato Curry calls it a mammoth accomplishment nonetheless.
Yeah, I want people to understand that our challenge was such a great challenge. We didn't just go up against any ordinary candidate. We went up against the Prime Minister, then Prime Minister of the country, who also had the government. And to capture that amount of votes at the same time, it shows that our message did resonate with the people, especially the young people in particular. It was really about the Bahamian people, and we were saying that from day one, putting the Bahamians first. A lot of people felt neglected here in North Abaco, and my message at the time, the vision that we shared, was they connected with it.
As he continues the campaign to become the next representative for the North Abaco constituency, Curry says there is an air of anticipation and some residents are overwhelmed. While these residents are already predicting a clear win for the PLP's candidate, he shares just why he's the right man for the job.
The opposition candidate, he have recently returned home. You know, he's here now, and I understand his concerns, but, you know, the people need somebody who has spent a lot of time here, who understands the need, the real need.
As the campaign trail heats up, Curry says he's noticing a new trend where persons who would ordinarily vote for the Free National Movement is now throwing their support behind him. But he says there is one concern that he must address: rumors of victimization and bullying tactics to get constituents to vote PLP.
No bullying tactics. We don't have to do that. People know me and what I'm about. I mean, I wouldn't have to. It'll be a sad day when we come to, I feel we have to bully somebody to vote for me. I want people to vote for me because of who I am.
But he says he's not distracted by the naysayers. This family man, former chairman of local government, church and community leader, says the future of Abaco now lies in the hands of the registered voters.
I encourage persons to come out and vote and give me a chance to serve them in Parliament. I'm prepared to serve them. I've prepared myself by studying what the things that we will need for North Abaco. We have a vision that we have already articulated to them, and I want them to know to give me an opportunity, let me go forward and serve them so that we can have progress.
It's just 24 hours after nomination day, and the Free National Movement is already redoubling their efforts here on the ground. Well, the fact is, this seat has been an F&M seat for a very long time, and as our Altavis Munnings tells us, they will not give it up without a fight.
We want to address issues of men providing for their families. We want to address issues of men abandoning their family. We want to address issues of the family, the marriages.
Confident that he'll become the Free National Movement's next member of Parliament for North Abaco, molding the youth is just one of Greg Gomez's primary concerns. The husband, father of three, banker, religious minister, and community leader believes now is the time for him to serve his people of Abaco.
If I don't win, I'm also a minister. I have banking experience. I have other experience in local government. I have experience also in government. I've worked for Bahamas Customs. I've worked for Tankship Transport as a payroll accountant. I'm a survivor.
Gomez encourages North Abaco residents and Bahamians everywhere to not mind the noise in the market. He's committed to getting the job done and enhancing the country's third largest economy.
The greatest lesson I've learned in this campaign is that if you want something, you have to fight for it. I realize that everybody might not want what I want for me. But if I want it, I have to want it bad enough. I have to go after it.
And that's exactly what Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis wants for all Abaconians.
My grandson, who is 6 years old, has been up here campaigning with me. And what is so amazing, he enjoys it. And he said he wanted to live in Abaco and whatever. But to see him playing around with other kids who are PLP, that's freedom, you know? And that's how I'd like to see the Bahamas.
The Free National Movement plans to intensify its by-election campaign to reclaim victory on October 15th. I'm Altavis Munnings for the ZNS News Network.
So now that you've heard from both candidates from the major political parties, tomorrow we will focus on residents. We will talk to them here about their concerns, issues, and challenges in this area. So that should be really interesting. Also this weekend, the Progressive Liberal Party will start their rally this Saturday and every Saturday leading up to the election. The Free National Movement will host their rally sometime next week. Reporting live from Cooperstown, Abaco, I'm Shashina Roll for ZNS News Network.
Thanks, Shashina. Well, the Free National Movement leader, Dr. Hubert Minnis, has decided to withdraw his complaint on a death threat allegation. Dr. Minnis appeared before a Marsh Harbor Magistrates Court yesterday to obtain the court's permission to withdraw the complaint. According to a press release, Dr. Minnis was moved to do so when it became apparent that the defendant would lose his job as a result of the matter, and Dr. Minnis didn't wish to cause any hardship to the defendant. The body of the late Paul Adderley is lying in state in the foyer of the House of Assembly. Prime Minister Perry Christie led a contingent of government officials and opposition members who viewed his body late this morning. Governor General His Excellency Sir Arthur Folkes was also present to pay his respects. Shortly after offering his sympathies to the Adderley family, Mr. Christie spoke with members of the media outside the House of Assembly about the impact the man many have deemed a political great and national hero had on his life and political career.
Throughout my public life, he was a self-appointed protector of me in every which way, politically, legislatively, and even when he himself retired and it came to a constitutional motion before the courts, Mr. Adderley determined not only that it should be done in giving me advice, but that he himself would do it. One of the last, if not the last, court case he took on with advocacy on behalf of the Progressive Liberal Party, but really because I was his leader.
Asked about the possibility of a national accolade for the former politician, Prime Minister Christie said plans are already in the making.
I don't want to preempt Nicolette Bethel and Charles Carter. I expect them to, in a very deliberative way, determine how best to honor Mr. Adderley. And it's going to be very important that we do that. Whether that's one of the notes in the currency of the Bahamas, whether it's a statue, whether it's naming some street or building, those are things that are best left to people who are not as close to him as I was to think and to be able to do properly.
Now, Mr. Adderley's body will lie in state in the House of Assembly until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The state funeral is set for 11 a.m. at Christ Church Cathedral on George Street. And of course, the ZNS radio and television networks will carry the proceedings live. Well, a former political contemporary of the late Honorable Paul Adderley says the country has lost one of its finest sons. In our Remembering Paul Adderley segment, we speak with former ambassador to the United Nations and Member of Parliament, Father James Moultrie, who worked closely with Mr. Adderley from 1974 up until his retirement from politics in 1992. As he reflected on the life of his dear friend and colleague, Father Moultrie lauded Mr. Adderley as a remarkable individual and nationalist who devoted more than 40 years of his life to the service of the Bahamian people.
He was Bahamian, in and out. He believed in self-determination. He believed in the Bahamian identity and the Bahamian performance. So he was a man who, one of the builders of the nation. But if you didn't know all of that, you just think he was a good lawyer. Oh, he was a great lawyer, but he was also one of the finest ministers and one of the finest public servants this country has ever had. You know, Paul Adderley was never interested in making a lot of money in private practice. He spent most of his life in government. He could have done much better in private practice.
Besides his intellectual brilliance, Father Moultrie expressed admiration in the way Mr. Adderley executed his duties in public and private life.
I think he should be remembered for his service to the country, service that he didn't have to give, but he felt moved to give. His entire life was spent in service to the people. He used to joke that he didn't even know how to charge good fees as a lawyer, because if you didn't have it, same thing, Paul would represent you. Wonderful, wonderful humanitarian.
There was another blackout in the capital overnight. Coming up, we'll hear BEC's explanation this time.